I took a taxi on my way home because I couldn't bear the shame of walking alone. I looked at my phone, and my girlfriends have left several text messages and missed calls. They must have been worried sick about me because I didn't tell them that I was leaving. I kind of snuck out the club to be with this stranger. I also got a missed call from my boyfriend, and that made my heart sink. What if he knows? What if somebody told him? What if someone saw us leaving the club together? It wasn't as glamorous as all my friends made it out to be. It was a meaningless one night stand. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this, or maybe because I don't do it that often and wasn't used to it. Just meeting a random guy and being in his bed within 5 hours of meeting him is one for the books. I felt like he was too rough and didn't see me as a person, not loving, not like my boyfriend. I guess that's what having a one night stand was all about. Looking back, maybe a small part of me that I hate likes it. It's the wild part and the excitement of taking risk, the thrill of getting caught, the adventurous side of me. While I was in the taxi, I called my girlfriends and lied to them that I wasn't feeling well, so I left. I later found out that they saw me leaving the club with him, and I was ashamed to admit it to them because I didn't want to risk my boyfriend finding out. I knew that wasn't a good excuse, but that was all I could come up with. I would later find out that some of my boyfriend's teammates saw me walking out with my affair partner, including his cousin. When I got home, I was thinking about what ifs. What if they thought I did something with a stranger? What if words gets out to my boyfriend? I knew this was going to end badly when my boyfriend finds out. I didn't call my boyfriend back that night because I was nervous that maybe one of his friends saw me. I went to bed around 2 or 3 a.m. The following morning, I received a call at around 6 a.m. It was my boyfriend. He asked me what happened the previous night. I was scared, so I played like I didn't know what he was talking about. Then he asked me again, this time mentioning the affair partner's name. He went like, "What happened between you and that guy?" I was shocked because at that very moment, I didn't even remember his name. I am sure he told me during our introduction the previous night, but I couldn't remember the affair partner's name. I denied knowing him, so I told my boyfriend that I didn't know who that was. He started explaining to me that he was the cousin of one of his teammates. That was when I admitted that we went outside for some fresh air. Then, to my horror, my boyfriend called me out on my affair, saying that the guy was bragging about sleeping with me, and he has a picture of me leaving his cousin's apartment, that I have been exposed as a cheating WHORE. I was so shocked that I couldn't say anything. All I thought about at that moment was swearing at that stupid teammate or person that told him. I felt like the guilty feeling that I feel at that moment alone should show him that I was apologetic. I apologized profusely that it was a big mistake. I could hear the pain by the shakiness of his voice as he angrily called me all sorts of names, and that broke my heart. I felt like I don't deserve to be called those things, and it was just a mistake. I wish he could see my heart to know how sorry I was. I told him we should discuss it more in person when he returned from his trip the following day. To my surprise, he told me he had already arrived and wanted us to talk by the school cafeteria. Apparently, his teammate told him the day before, so he cut his trip short to confront me. This is a public place, and I wouldn't want us to air out my dirty laundry in the open. I told him to meet me at home instead after our class. When he showed up, I tried to understand how much he knew before I confessed so I wouldn't hurt him further. Apparently, he knew everything, and I figured it was my affair partner's cousin who snitched on me. The guy that I had an affair with was bragging about it, and he took pictures of me leaving his apartment without my knowledge. And the pictures were being passed around campus. Come to find out, the guy that I had an affair with was so immature. I was just a notch in his belt. He was bragging that he slept with a girl that has a boyfriend within 5 hours of meeting her. This was so embarrassing. This guy was such a douchebag, and I regret giving myself up to him so easily. I was busted at this point, so I was confused. I told him everything and begged him profusely to forgive me. I knew what I did was wrong, but I told him that I was naive and I felt like he took advantage of me. It broke my heart to see my boyfriend sad. He kept mentioning about how embarrassing it was for him that all his teammates now know. The consequences of my infidelity were starting to sink in on me. I didn't expect things to escalate that far, and I was carried away by feelings and emotions. He was truly hurt during our conversation, but had a sense of calm about it. He didn't raise his voice at me. I thought he should have been screaming and yelling, but no, he didn't react as such. He kept saying how humiliating it was for him. He would ask what he did wrong to deserve this embarrassment. He kept going on and on about how much he loved me and he had been faithful to me despite how many women threw themselves at him. He never took the bait. I felt bad because he was truly hurt, and I told him that all I could do was apologize and I didn't want to lose him. And I asked him to tell me what I needed to do for him to trust me again. He said that he wasn't going to accept my apology and he's not sure if he can be in a relationship with me and would never trust me again. He said almost all his teammates knows by now and we can no longer be as we used to be. He said he can't walk with me or be seen around me. I felt like a leper. I felt a deep sense of loss within me, like I can't live without him. I was truly sorry for cheating on him. I felt like his feelings were bottled up. I thought he was too awfully quiet. I wanted him to react, to say something in anger. He was just too calm. He was deeply sad, but didn't cry. I wanted him to feel something. I wanted a reaction from him. I told him to hit me and beat me. Maybe it would help release the pain because I don't want to lose him. I don't know if I can live without him. He left in anger and wouldn't answer my call for 2 days. Back then, I thought he still loved me. I knew he still cares for me. So I decided to give him space and not be too pushy. I stopped calling him and texting him for a week. I missed him so much. One day I came to his game just to watch him play and cheer for him like I used to do. He noticed me after the game, but I didn't want to approach him then because I knew his teammates were there. So I waited till he was in the parking lot to approach him. I congratulated him on the game and he seemed pleased to see me. Long story short, we ended up at his apartment and we made love. I didn't know whether we were back as boyfriend and girlfriend because things were up in the air, but I didn't want to break it off. I wanted to be agreeable and not pushy. A few weeks later, we were having excess frequently, but he wouldn't appear in public with me. It seems like everybody knew about my affair in school, the way they look at me. So I avoided some activities and tried not to hang out with my boyfriend in public because I knew he would be embarrassed. Our relationship was up in the air, except the intimacy part. I would sneak into his apartment often for some intimacy with him. I thought everyone would judge me, but that wasn't the case. I felt like more men started hitting on me on campus. I wasn't sure if it was because they thought I was no longer with my boyfriend or because they thought I put it out easy, but I didn't really fancy the attention I was getting. Even my boyfriend noticed how much attention I was getting in school because he commented about it. Back then, I wasn't sure if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but I felt like he became really secretive with me and would hide things. I felt like he wasn't being vulnerable with me anymore. I thought maybe it would take a while to gain his trust back, and I was willing to wait. As it turns out, my affair partner was joining our school the following semester. He was transferring from another school and waiting on his scholarship to kick in. Eventually, we did cross paths on certain occasions, and I tried not to make eye contact. It was embarrassing. My boyfriend said he wouldn't blame my affair partner because he was new on campus and didn't know who he was, so he holds no grudge against him. I thought my boyfriend was being naive because my affair partner was clearly bragging about sleeping with a girl in a relationship, but I was like, cool, it's okay if he believes him and not me. He told me to just let time go by and maybe things will be better again. I was glad that he was considering taking me back, even though at the back of my mind, I felt like he was just using me as a side piece and avoiding hanging out with me in public. I tried not to push too much thought to it. I was determined to do whatever it takes for things to go back to the way things were. Before the semester was over, me and my boyfriend planned on visiting my mom. so I could introduce him to her. I was kind of nervous because I thought my mom wouldn't like him, but I thought my boyfriend is the type of guy that every parent would like. Because of my infidelity, I wasn't too sure that my boyfriend was going to come with me because I am not sure he likes me like he used to, but I was surprised when he agreed to come with me. I thought it was a positive step towards rebuilding our relationship. I was glad that he accepted. I knew how much he loved spending time with his family, so it meant a lot to me that he wanted to visit my mom with me. My mom lives in North Florida, close to Georgia. She's a school principal at a local high school and works very hard and long hours. Her only social circle are people at school and people at her church. Although she wasn't an active member at the church and only goes on Sundays. After the semester ended, we drove in my boyfriend's car. When we arrived, my mom was in front of her house, waiting for us. She was so happy to see me. She gained a couple of pounds since I last saw her 6 months ago. She looked exactly like Rosanna Burr in her prime, but she doesn't have any sense of humor. I got my tall jeans from my dad. My mom hardly smiles, so I knew she was really happy to see me because she couldn't stop smiling. It meant a lot to me to see her smile. My mom was 45 at the time. You could tell from a mile away that she's a school principal because she looks and dressed the part. I introduced her to my boyfriend, and she was so happy for me. She held I and my boyfriend by the hand and led us to the house. Before we told her that we needed to bring our belongings into the house, my boyfriend told me to go ahead, that he would bring in my luggage, and that I should spend time with my mom. I remember my mom smiling when he said that. She mentioned that he was a gentleman while she held me by the hand, leading me into the house. In the kitchen, my mom had several of my favorite meals prepared for us, and we sat on the dining table and catch up on conversation. As my boyfriend brought my belongings into the house, he didn't know where my room was, so I had to get up and help him out. If I remember correctly, while I was alone with my boyfriend in the house, we fooled around a bit before I heard my mom calling us to come get something to eat. We quickly got up and put our clothes back on and headed to the dining room. My mom wasn't a social person, so I was sure that I and my boyfriend were probably the first visitors she's had in months. Her sister and my grandmother are the only people that visits her. She doesn't like people around her house. After having dinner, I was full and tired. It was getting dark. I excused myself and told my boyfriend that I was going to bed. He said it was too early, like around 8 p.m., if I remember correctly. I told him that it's been a long day and I was tired. I woke up in the middle of the night and my boyfriend wasn't sleeping by my side. I heard voices coming from the living room and it sounded like my mom and my boyfriend laughing loud. I thought to myself that they were really getting along. I have never heard my mom laugh out loud, except when her sister comes to visit. I remember feeling happy that my mom likes my boyfriend and he was able to make her laugh. It was almost like my affair a few weeks ago has been forgotten. I really wish that I hadn't cheated on him because he was such a nice guy. So I was thinking. I woke up and joined them in the living room. When I came to the living room, they were both sitting on the same couch and watching TV and talking. Looks like they still had the same outfit they had when I went to bed. I joined them and we watched TV till 1 a.m. When my mom decided to go to bed, I joined my boyfriend on the couch, and it didn't take long for him to sleep on my lap. I think I went to sleep late, around 4 p.m. or so that night. I woke up around 10 a.m. and I couldn't find my boyfriend and my mom. I made some cereal, and as I was eating, they walked in through the door. They both went out jogging. I have never seen my mom exercise before. I didn't think any human could convince her to exercise. She wasn't obese or anything, but she could lose a few. She was just a spitting image of Rosanna Barr. She was wearing a workout leggings that I didn't even know she had. I couldn't believe my boyfriend was able to convince my mom to go out jogging. I was making fun of them when they came to greet me while I was eating breakfast. We all laughed. I haven't seen my mom so happy. I should have known that it was one of the last good moments I would have with my mom in the next 8 years. That evening, I was hoping to go out with my boyfriend at night, but I couldn't find him. When I called him, he told me that he was out stargazing with my mom. Stargazing was one of my mom's favorite hobbies, so I knew she convinced him to do it. I had mixed feelings about this since I wanted to go out with my boyfriend, but at the same time, I thought it was a sign of acceptance for my mom to invite my boyfriend to stargaze with her, since she only stargazes with her best friends. I decided to go to bed instead of going out with my boyfriend. He later joined me in bed that night, and I didn't know what time they returned. The following morning, something really strange happened. That day, my mom dressed really revealing around the house. She was walking around the kitchen, making breakfast for I and my boyfriend, wearing a transparent cover up with no bra, sagging and wearing only panties, which was visible. I could clearly see her melons, and I was sure my boyfriend could see it as well. It was so embarrassing, but she was acting normal, and so was my boyfriend. It would have felt really awkward if I had told her to cover up herself in her own home. That wasn't our kind of relationship. She's supposed to be the one telling me to cover up because that was the kind of person she was. So it was really strange. I acted normal, like I didn't see anything, and I hope it was just one of those strange events that wouldn't happen again if I don't think about it. That morning, that should have been the biggest sign that something was going on between my mom and my boyfriend. Even the way she acted around him that morning, serving him like he was the man of the house. I wasn't comfortable with the whole situation, but never suspected that they were having an affair. In the afternoon, I went out and visited some friends with my boyfriend, and I forgot all about that strange morning. That evening, I went out with my boyfriend, and we came back almost midnight. When we got home, my mom was still in the living room watching TV, almost like she was waiting for us to come back before she went to bed. When we got back, I thought my boyfriend would join me in the bedroom to get some sleep, but instead, he joined my mom in the living room as I went to the bathroom to take a shower and go to sleep. I woke up a few hours later and my boyfriend wasn't in bed with me, thinking it was like the other night before. I was on my way to the bathroom when I heard a faint moaning coming from the living room. I heard the TV, so I thought maybe it was my mom watching TV with my boyfriend. The TV was loud. After I was done using the bathroom, I headed back to the bedroom, but for some reason, I changed my mind and took a detour towards the living room to see what was going on. When I walked into the living room from the hallway, I had no idea what to expect, but what I saw changed my life forever. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was screaming on top of my lungs when I saw my mom on top of my boyfriend, riding him. She was still wearing her nightgown, while my boyfriend had no shirt on, just his boxers. My mom jumped away from his pelvis when she heard me screaming from behind, and I saw that his private was inside her. It was clear to me that it wasn't a joke or a plaything. It truly happened. They were indeed being intimate. My mom looked shocked, holding her hand on her mouth as my boyfriend struggled to put his pants on. I felt like fainting. I was hyperventilating till I blanked out. The first thing I remembered was waking up on my mother's arms. I apparently fainted, and my boyfriend was nowhere to be found. My mom was crying when I woke up. Looked like I was out for a couple of minutes. She told me that she was sorry, and it was a mistake, and that it just happened. I got up and told her that I would never forgive her. I didn't care where my boyfriend was, and I would have killed him if I had seen him. I packed my belongings that night so I could get the hell out of my mom's house as fast as I could. My boyfriend, that coward, ran away with his car. I called my friend and told her that I was coming to her house. I had no means of transportation because I left my car at school. I called an Uber to take me to a friend's house to spend the rest of the night and to have a shoulder to cry on. My boyfriend never called me back, and I wanted to call him so I can get some sort of closure. Days turns to weeks, weeks turns to months, months turns to years. I was waiting for him to proactively call me and beg me because I shouldn't have to take the initiative. That was the last time I went to school for years. I couldn't go back to school that semester. I thought I would transfer, and I kept procrastinating because I was so embarrassed, humiliated, and I was going through a deep depression. I was so traumatized by this. I went to stay with my dad, and I told him about it. He paid for me to start talking to a therapist. I later went back to school 3 years after D-Day to finish my degree at Georgia Tech. I have already lost my scholarship, and everybody I knew had already graduated, including my coward ex-boyfriend. This happened to me 8 years ago, and I am still in recovery. I have been taking steps to develop my relationship with my mom because she has been reaching out. I felt like I have to open myself to her at some point because I can't continue to be mad forever. At the end of the day, she is still my mom. I felt like my ex boyfriend took advantage of a lonely and vulnerable woman. I look him up on Facebook sometimes, and I get mad when I see how happy he is with his wife and 3 children. He has quickly got over it and have forgotten about me. He left the bullet in me that I'm still trying to recover for 8 years. I really can't get over him. Trust me, I tried. I get evil thoughts sometimes, thoughts like tracking him down and taking his life and his wife's life. I feel like the kids she has belongs to me, and he has taken everything from me. He left me an empty shell of my former self. I don't know, but I hope I don't follow through on that. Time heals all wounds, but mine is still fresh, like it happened yesterday. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please hit the thumbs up button for YouTube to promote my video. Thank you and have a wonderful rest of the day.